The scene presented in this house today is one unparalleled in the history of the world. This was a turbulent session of the Georgia State Legislature in 1868. The speaker was Henry McNeal Turner, speaking for 32 black fellow members. Because of their race, they were all soon to be expelled from the legislature. His speech was a passionate plea for justice. The great question, sir, is this: am I a man? If I am such, I claim the rights of a man. We have pioneered civilization here. We have built up your country. We have worked in your fields for 250 years. You have all the elements of superiority upon your side. You have our money and your own. You have our education and your own. And you have your land and our own too. You may expel us, gentlemen, but I firmly believe that you will someday repent it. But after the next election in 1869, the black legislators were expelled from the House for good. Rejected again, Henry Turner lost faith in America and began to dream of migrating to a black independent nation in another land. Turner's youth had been remarkable. Although the child of free Negroes in South Carolina, he had many happy times, but he worked as hard in the cotton fields as any slave. Henry persuaded friendly whites to teach him to read, even though education for Negroes was forbidden by state law. When he worked as an office boy in a law firm, he continued his schooling with the help of several young lawyers. Henry had a talent for leadership and public speaking, along with his interests in history, law, and religion. In the African Methodist Episcopal Church, a large and active organization, he found an outlet for his energy and talents. The church was concerned with both the spiritual welfare of black people and with the social conditions under which they lived. At the age of 20, Turner became a minister. In 1858, he moved north to do church work in Baltimore and Washington, D.C. And soon after the outbreak of the Civil War, he was appointed by President Lincoln to be the first black chaplain in the Union Army. Turner was impressed by the courage of black soldiers and deeply disturbed by the Army's discrimination against them. Black volunteers, 186,000 in all, served for many months in segregated regiments at lower pay than their white fellow soldiers. After the war, Turner worked with the Freedmen's Bureau, organized for the improvement, protection, and employment of refugee freedmen. Turner's varied career had prepared him well for his brilliant speech to the legislature. But disappointed in his brief period in Reconstruction politics, and horrified by the continuing show of race hatred, Turner became the spokesman of a Back to Africa movement. In 1878, the migration to Liberia began. Liberia was an African state founded by the American Colonization Society in the 1820s. The expedition, Turner said, would take back to Africa the culture, education, and religion acquired here. This was the keynote of his African crusade. The American dream must be transplanted to the black man's ancestral home. Although the migration was underway, Turner stayed in the United States, a bishop in the church and a leader in the colonization movement. In 1883, when the Supreme Court nullified the Civil Rights Act that had been passed during Reconstruction, he spoke out in anger, clearly outlining his concept of black nationalism. This abominable decision, he said, made the ballot of the black man a parody, his citizenship a nullity, and his freedom a burlesque. It was God's will, he said, for black people to leave America as the Israelites had left Egypt and the Pilgrims had left England. Black men could earn respect only by proving themselves capable of founding and manning a government of their own creation. Till we have black men in the seat of power, respected, honored, feared, hated, and reverenced, our young men will never rise for the reason they will never look up. A democratic all-Negro nation in Africa, Turner felt, would give the entire black race a model for advancement. For such a mission, a limited number of civilized Christian Negroes, perhaps 500,000 altogether, would be needed. For financial aid, he appealed to Congress. He estimated that the nation owed Negroes a moral debt of $40 billion for 200 years of free labor. Although Turner's plan had some appeal for thousands of poor and uneducated ex-slaves in the South, few black leaders supported him. C.H.J. Taylor, United States Minister to Liberia, reported that conditions there were degrading. Newspaper editor Benjamin Tanner said that for Negroes to leave America would be like running from the sun for both light and heat. Booker T. Washington urged Negroes to stay in the South, educate themselves, and struggle to earn the white man's respect. But after a visit to Liberia in 1891, Turner wrote that the black man there feels like a lord and walks the same way. The Liberian exodus failed because it lacked money and because most Negroes felt that America, with all its race problems, was still the Negro's home. But long after his death in 1915, Bishop Turner's ideas were a strong influence. Black nationalism was revived in the 1920s by Marcus Garvey, who was able to attract 1 million followers. Today, black nationalists are moving in different ways toward the same goal: to control and shape their destiny in their own way. For many black militants today, Bishop Turner is a symbol of the black man's struggle for equality and self-respect.